Okay, so shooting COVID-19 log 21. It is 9:22 p.m. April 14th, and get right to the numbers. World deaths are now at 126,600. World cases have reached that mark, 2 million. U.S. deaths are now at over 26,000, exactly at 26,047. U.S. cases 613,886, so just over 600,000. U.S. deaths 10,008. New York deaths, my great state, 10,834. We broke into the 5 figures last time I shot a video. New York cases are now over 200,000 at 203,123. My county, we had a death yesterday. We're still at that same spot with 9 deaths. However, we now have 97 cases. And the highest number of quarantine that I've seen in this county at 101. The amount of ICU patients has also gone up too. It's usually only like 1 or 2. We have 4 in the ICU in this county now, which is never a good sign. Once you're in the ICU for this, it's not a good sign. So we have 4 there now. So we had 778 deaths in New York today, which isn't the most we had in one day, but we were in the 700s for about a week. Yesterday we dropped to 671. I was very skeptical about that number continuing or decreasing, and I was correct on that. Again, we had 778 deaths today. You can't go by one day on this. They suggest at least 3 days. So that was unfortunate. And states across the country have seen that today. Today was a really, really bad day for deaths across all states in the country. We had over 2,129 deaths in the U.S. today, which is a new deadliest day for the U.S., unfortunately. So I'm talking about reopening. I've mentioned that in the last couple logs here. And I'm talking about how, people who've recovered from COVID-19 are now immune to it, and how they could go back to work. However, they only make up it's somewhere in between 10 to 20% of the U.S. population, and that's just not enough. You can't send 10 to 20% out and open up the country. It's just not enough. And as far as like testing goes, I was watching an expert on TV last night who said that with the time it takes to develop the tests, distribute them, perform them, get the results, report the results, etc., we would only be able to test about 4% of the U.S. population, and that's by fall. It's April, so that is not good. Um, and here in New York State, we can't reopen at all without some type of federal funding. We, we've been the hardest hit. We've been the epicenter of this thing the entire time, and we're drained. We cannot open without some type of federal funding. They also were saying too today how part of reopening would have to include a mass disinfection, which so far we've only seen like images of that out of China and other countries, where you have like a team of people in hazmat suits who are walking in a line down the streets, spraying their tank of disinfectant on, it would be the same here on streets, park benches, subways, buses, just spraying basically the entire city down. But again, these are just discussions. We're only just at the apex now. Again, unfortunately, the apex is a place where we are seeing almost 800 people a day die. But, it's going to take that much time to plan any kind of reopening that they have to start discussing it now, even though it could be months and months away. Yeah, I mean, nobody knows. It's like we could open in a couple weeks or a couple months. I mean, I don't see it being a couple weeks. It's going to take more time than that to coordinate this type of thing. So a personal note I usually try to include with this. It's kind of weird because any non-essential businesses had to close. So dentists have closed, and so I've been taking extra good care of my dental hygiene because if I get a cavity or something, I can't go to a dentist. I just have to stick it out until this is over. So yeah, kind of and I always take pretty good care anyway, but it's different, that can't go to a dentist. And the same thing with like barber shops and salons and things like that. It's easy enough for some women, maybe even most women, they get their hair cut twice a year, so it doesn't really matter to them. Also, some men like myself, like I normally keep a pretty shaved, head, so it's more than easy enough to do that myself, but for everybody else, they just, I don't know, gotta figure something out. Have somebody do it. I don't know. So yeah, that's the current case. I'm expecting. What am I expecting tomorrow? expecting we'll see over 700 deaths in New York again. You never can tell if it's going to be most deadliest for the U.S. But we've kind of hit this point where we're just riding it out. We've hit the peak and we're just waiting for it to fall so we can start trying to get back to normal, or the new normal.